Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so very delighted and honored that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. We have two fantastic guests for you today. A little bit later on, we're going to be meeting Tracy Gold. She's here to celebrate everyone's sleepy but the baby. But first, we're going to visit Sheboygan and Wisconsin to speak with Michael Leannah, the author of Goodnight Whispers. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm just great today. How are you today?
I am fantastic, and I can't wait for you to tell us all about Goodnight Whispers.
Goodnight Whispers is a book that I wrote as kind of a tribute to my own family, my own daughter in particular. I'm the father of 3 children. When I met the woman who became my wife, she had an 8-year-old son who I met only when he was much too old to experience the things that go on in Goodnight Whispers. But I later adopted him, and he's the oldest of my 3 children. My daughter came next, and then I have a little son after her. And I did this kind of a thing. It wasn't a formal experiment, but when my daughter was little, I kind of made a point to say something to her at bedtime. And even if I got home late and she was asleep already, I would go and say something to her, quietly in her ear, just something positive. And I thought, this can't be wrong. It can't work out in any way that's not going to be nice. And I just thought this is going to be kind of a little experiment to see if I can keep doing it. And I think I was pretty much able to do it. I didn't travel for my work. I was home almost all the time. And I did this little whispering thing at the end of the day and tried to say something nice to her. More often than not, it was when she was awake and I was saying goodnight to her, but I would say something nice and positive. And she's today 30 years old and is a school teacher herself. That's what my wife and I both were for our careers. So, and I think it worked out real well, but it turned into this book that's just kind of encouraging people in general to say nice things to each other.
What a nice, simple, but really powerful idea. Just sharing nice thoughts, saying nice things to the people that we love.
And in the book, it's a man with his little daughter. But I always tell people, my little audiences, when I read the book to children, I will say it could be a mom and her son. It could be a grandparent with a grandchild. It could be just 2 friends who say nice things to each other. And you just kind of see what happens. You know, the people will respond well to compliments and positive messages, affirmations. And in the book, it turns out where it kind of goes back, where the girl, it's actually an unusual children's book because you meet this little girl as a baby, but she's a baby in her crib. And in the end of the book, she's an adult woman with her child of her own. And you see the whole process kind of go around in this big circle and kind of continues on through the generations. It was something that was kind of fun to play around with. Mm-hmm. But when people ask me, is this what happened to you? And I have to say, honestly, no. I'm not aware when I was a little baby. I don't think either of my parents did this to me. But it's something that perhaps I've started. I don't know, but
share a little bit about your experience as a teacher, a teacher of young kids, 2nd and 3rd grade, you're saying. Were you able to kind of guess as you were looking at your students, could you kind of guess the kids who were coming from a home where they were being read to every night, where they were, getting those positive, moments of attention, as opposed to the kids who weren't?
I think you can. You can guess, and often when I would guess, I think I had it right. You could be wrong when you make that assumption, but you can really tell those kinds of things when someone's been read to, or just when they've been treated with patience, when they have seen a few things, when they've been taken on trips, or it all comes across that way. These needy, there are a lot of needy kids in my classrooms over the years. I taught for, I think, 11 years in Milwaukee, where things in some of the neighborhoods that weren't real good. And there were a lot of struggling families, a lot of trouble. And that's where I learned sometimes I had to begin my lessons at each day before we could do anything involving numbers with our math book or any kind of language activities, anything like that. We had to stop and just kind of do something to set the tone and to boost everybody's self-esteem a little bit. So I have a number of ways of doing that first thing in the morning, just kind of get everybody settled in and feeling good. And then we could proceed into the lessons. It didn't really work to just barge into the lessons right away because they weren't ready, and they were probably troubled by things they had seen or heard since the last time we'd all been together. And we needed to get that kind of settled or out of the way. So I think that's what's kind of led to the kinds of books that I've written. I've had 3 children's books published now, and they're all kind of in that realm of, let's all feel good here. Let's try to establish something that makes us feel better about the world and to look at things a little bit differently. I didn't think that would be the way. When I was a teacher, I was writing in my spare time and trying to get published, and the stories I wrote then were the kind I still am attracted to. Humorous stories, lots of them involving talking animals, just kind of fun stories. And those have not gone anywhere for me. And I keep tapping into this other thing. I have to kind of just accept the fact that this is the way it is, I guess. But these other books seem to be the things that the publishers so far have wanted.
We've talked a lot about how much kids get from hearing those positive words coming from their parent or from their teacher, from somebody that they look up to in their lives, and how much of a difference it can make in their life. As the whisperer, as a person who was whispering these things to your daughter every night, how did that affect you?
Well, it makes you feel good. I think that it does make you feel good. And I was hopeful that this little experiment, and if I didn't think of it then as an experiment, maybe that built as time went on, that, this is really interesting. And I wonder if someday I'll be looking back at this as some kind of a significant experiment. But it's just kind of, it builds, and you have this feeling inside that, yeah, this is good. That's a good one. And maybe I'll say that one again or whatever. I think too, when you're a teacher doing it, I'm going back to this teacher thing. I didn't expect to do that today, but when you're a teacher, being positive, especially on a difficult day when some other colleagues might be having a really tough time, it just feels good.
I think we forget the fact that our days run on energy, and somebody needs, the day needs somebody to feed that energy. And if we, and again, we have that choice. We can feed the day negative energy and anger and all that other kind of stuff, or we can feed it patience and love and positivity. And it again, it sounds all woo-woo and everything, but it really is true. It can make all the difference in your life and in the lives of the people around you.
I agree with you, and I think today I'm sounding kind of like almost like a preacher, and I'm not that. I'm not perfect at this. It's something that's been driving my children's writing lately, because this is the thing that's kind of that's been tapped into here.
I just, the world needs it, especially now, because the expression in the news is, if it bleeds, it leads. And so, news is not going to come out and celebrate the fact that, hey, most Americans get along with each other. most people don't experience crime or hate in their lives. This is a pretty good place. This is a pretty good world. It's not perfect. We have a lot to do, but the real headline should be that we can do it together. We have a lot to do, but we can do it together. And we can make this country a better place. We can make the world a better place, more equitable. And I think that work begins with us being positive about each other and lifting each other up. And I love the fact that your books are doing that.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Tell everybody, please, where they can go to find out more about you and more about your books.
Well, my website is my name. It's michaelleannah.com.
We've had a wonderful time speaking to the author of Goodnight Whispers, Michael Leannah. Hey, Michael, thanks for being on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
I appreciate it so much. I enjoyed it with you today. Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed our chat with Michael Leannah. Be sure to check out Goodnight Whispers. In just a moment, Tracy Gold is going to be here to celebrate Everyone's Sleepy But the Baby. Before she joins us, we want to encourage you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Also visit our Reading With Your Kids page on Pinterest. And please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. Check out our Certified Great Reads Wall of Fame. And, of course, check out our great blog. Join us right now from Baltimore in Maryland, fast becoming one of my favorite cities in the United States. Our guest today is here to celebrate a brand new book coming out from our friends from Familius. It's called Everyone's Sleeping But the Baby. Please welcome to the show, Tracy C. Gold. Tracy, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. Everyone's sleepy but the baby. I'm sure anybody who's listening who has a baby can relate to that.
Yeah, it is based on my real life as a very exhausted mom. I like to say that my baby would never sleep except for when she was supposed to be eating, and then we couldn't get her to wake up.
Yeah. Been there, done that. It's a challenging time. It's an incredibly challenging time, and I don't think that no matter how many books you read, no matter how many people tell you, you really are never fully know what to expect when you have that first child, or even the second or third child.
Yeah, I had actually never changed a diaper until I had my own child, except for, on a doll in birth baby class. So it was a huge shock for me. I'm the oldest out of all of my I was the first to have a baby out of my close girlfriends, and the oldest, I have a little brother who actually just had a baby. So now I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to change this diaper. Except he's a boy, so he'll pee on you, right? And my my baby's a girl, so I didn't have to, watch out for the giant pee sprays quite as much. Just diving right into the TMI here.
No. I mean, that's right. I remember when my son was born, that happened to the nurse, and I was like really embarrassed. Like, oh my goodness, my child's acting up. And I'm like, part of me saying, I just met him 3 seconds ago.
It's not your fault yet.
Right, yeah. And the nurse is like, oh, it works. Oh, good.
Right. When they're 5 or 6 and they pee on things, I think you can probably blame the parents. I don't know, though. I've never had a 5 or 6-year-old. Okay. They could just do that.
We'll see. Good luck with that. Oh man, this is a wonderful board book. Did you write this with the intention of like giving parents a chance to read this story to their kids, saying, "Hey, look, this is what I'm going through with you, kid. Can you chill out at night and go to sleep?"
Yeah, it's actually really funny. I don't know if you know the book by Adam Mansbach, and I'm blanking on the name of the illustrator. Go the F to Sleep.
I am not familiar with that.
Yeah, it was so popular. I got 2 copies of it at my baby shower. And my daughter's 3, so I had her before COVID. So I actually got to have, indoors, in-person baby shower, which just seems, amazing these days. So yeah, that book, basically, it's a very profane, like, come on, kid, you don't need another glass of water, just go to sleep. with a lot of profanity. So, of course, I loved that, but I did a couple times, I have to admit, I did read it to my baby because she didn't know what any of those words meant. But, I just thought, man, I really wish there was something that embodied a little bit of this frustration, but that I could actually read to her. And I'm sure there are other books like that out there. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. And then there was one particularly bad night after, a series of them. And this wasn't even really, I don't think, in the middle of the night. This was just me trying to get her to go to sleep in the first place. And I was yawning, my husband was yawning, and my dog had the absolute audacity to be snoring. He was so tuckered out, and I was really jealous that my dog could be totally asleep and I still had to be awake and taking care of this child who would not sleep. So that's kind of the moment that sparked the idea for me. And there is a dog in the book and on a lot of the pages.
Very cool. Very cool. That is, dogs are wonderful for so many reasons, but they do have that unbelievable ability to sleep through almost anything.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And just fall asleep instantly and then instantly be back awake. It's really funny. My daughter already knows that I say, Mommy's not human until she's had her coffee. So I wake up in the morning and if my husband has her, she goes, Mommy, are you human yet? I say, no, honey, I haven't had my coffee.
Wow. We had a lot of, not so much trouble, but my son really liked being with us. And the doctor was like, no, your son really needs to get used to sleeping in his own room. And I said, well, but it's not working, Doc. And he said, well, just put him in his room and shut the door and let him cry himself to sleep. And we tried it one night, and we're outside the room, and he's howling, and my wife is crying. And then after 10 minutes, we finally said, okay, we can't do this. And we went in the room, and he had vomited over everything, every inch of the room. And at that point, we said, we don't care what the doctor said.
It's so hard. And, I think with so much of parenting, there's so much, judgment and shame and guilt that you can feel. You can be shamed for letting your baby cry it out, or you can be shamed for not letting your baby cry it out. And I think for me, at the end of the day, it was like, I just have to know what's going to cause me psychological distress, what's going to cause my baby psychological distress, and, just do my own thing. We did eventually have to let her cry a little bit, but I know it took me a couple tries. The first time we tried, I can't handle this. We have to go in there. And then a couple weeks later we did it, and it wasn't so bad for whatever reason. she was bigger and older, and I had more confidence that when she woke up in the middle of the night, she just wanted to play, and she didn't actually, need anything from me. So yeah, I think just, taking my own time was a big lesson. It's a lesson I'm still learning, as a parent, that it's just, you can stress and worry about what other people say, but at the end, you just have to trust your gut.
One of the things that you mentioned when you made the request to be on the show was that you wanted to talk a little bit about something called baby literacy. I'm really intrigued. What's baby literacy all about?
Well, I might have made up the term baby literacy, but the general idea that's backed up by a lot of child development theory and research is that the earlier you read to your kids, the better it is for them in just so many ways, for their general development, for their language development. And it honestly doesn't matter what you read. They don't know what you're saying when they're, newborns, but hearing the language it's just priming their brain to have their own language development later. And not to mention, it's a really good way to bond with your child. So I've talked to a lot of parents, with the book that Everyone's Sleepy But the Baby is for age 0 to 3. And, I've talked to some parents who are like, well, it's a newborn. They're not going to, read the book. I'm like, yeah, well, you should still read to your newborn. And the nice thing about reading to a newborn is you, the parent, or the guardian, you get to pick what you read. They don't have opinions. You don't have to read. I love, Brown Bear dearly, but I don't love it the 11,000th time. So you get to pick. You can read a variety. And it's just wonderful for your relationship with the baby and for the development of the baby. And one thing I'm also interested in and that I find upsetting is that we were talking about Baltimore and their areas of poverty in Baltimore, and young kids and babies don't have access to books in their neighborhood. There have been a few studies that, even if you want to buy a book, there's not that many books that you can buy if you're in a neighborhood without even a grocery store. The grocery store has books in the aisles, and the only books you can get are at like a dollar store. Baltimore has a wonderful library system. So I do think that Baltimore is better in that area, but the libraries are often only accessible. You have to go place your order ahead of time in COVID. You can't just browse.
Yeah, it is true. Obviously, here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast, we encourage families to read with their kids when they're in the womb. I mean, I read something like that when my son was born, and I remember lying next to my wife and reading to my baby when he was baking in the oven. And I don't know what he heard, but I know that it was a wonderful bonding time for me and my wife. And then when my son was born, it was just, well, I was reading to you before you got here, so come on. And it's that time that you're spending with each other. And yeah, there's loads and loads of studies that, babies hearing these words, it is a great way to start them building their vocabulary. And we've talked a lot about the fact that when you're reading to your baby from the time that they're born, 20 minutes a day till they go into preschool or kindergarten, that they're going to get into school having heard 800,000 to 1 million more words to their peers who weren't read to. But then you bring up that inequity that, and I think that that's something we should all be concerned about. Not only because it's the humane thing, it's we should care about the fact that there are kids out there, that there are families out there that don't have access to books. But if you don't want to be humane, you just want to be purely greedy and selfish, we should address this problem, because those are the kids who are more likely to have behavior issues, to end up getting involved in crime, and because they don't have any other options. So let's invest in kids when they're young so that they can have opportunities to grow up and to be the people that they want to be, and to be a great neighbor to all of us.
Well, and that is one of my favorite things about books, is that it opens your horizons. You may not know somebody who, let's come up with a zany example here from my life. So you may not know somebody who is a cowboy on a ranch, but you can go read a book about it and learn about, all the possibilities that life has to offer. Now, unfortunately, you can't be a wizard. But you could be a magician like you are. All right.
Thank you. I was like, wait a minute. Did we have this conversation?
You can't be Gandalf, but you can be close.
This is true. Yeah. And we've just recently had a guest on the show, Steve Pemberton, and he wrote a book called A Chance in the World. He wrote an adult memoir, and then he also wrote a children's version of it. And Steve grew up in an abusive foster home. He was thrown into the foster care system here in Massachusetts at the age of 3. He's right now an incredibly successful executive and serves on the board of a number of Fortune 500 companies. And he shared with us that the thing that saved him when he was in that abusive foster family was being able to read books and to escape into those books and to see the possibilities that were out there for him that were presented to him in the pages of books.
Right.
Before we go, I know that you have a new book that's coming out soon in the future.
Yes.
Just want to give us a little tease of that book?
I do. I have two that are actually one that's added that just got announced, but the one I have coming out in August from Source Books, it's called Trick or Treat Bugs to Eat, and it's about a bat going trick-or-treating on Halloween. And there's a lot of fun, silly rhymes, but also some information, nonfiction about bats and the ecosystem and what bats eat. And that would be really fun for older kids, younger kids, classroom. And then I just announced one with Familius, and that one's titled Call Your Mother. And it's inspired really by my grandparents. My grandpa used to always call my dad and say, "Hey, Carl, call your mother," because he didn't call his mom enough. And also by, when I became a mother, I found myself calling my mom for help a lot more. So it's kind of about that multi-generational relationship between babies and then when the babies grow up and become parents themselves.
Awesome. I can't wait to have you back to tell us about those great books.
I would love that.
Yeah. Well, we've had a great time speaking to the author of Everyone's Sleepy But the Baby, Tracy C. Gold. Hey, Tracy, thanks for being on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Tiffany Obing. She'll be here to celebrate Andrew Learns About Actors. If you are the author of a fantastic children's book, we would love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book, and it doesn't cost a thing. No need to pay anybody to facilitate your visit or for any other reason. All you need to do is go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page, scroll on down to be a guest. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guest, Michael Leannah. Be sure to check out Goodnight Whispers and Tracy Gold. Yeah, you definitely want to check out Everyone's Sleepy But the Baby. Also want to thank my buddy Kate Farrell over at Familius Publishing. She has brought us so many wonderful, wonderful authors. She is a great friend of the show. Also want to thank my team, Alejandro Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.